What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? This is a Cracker bringing you another dish of that Cracker sauce. I just went flying. I'm all fired up. I want to talk about playing the odds. I see some beginners sometimes not sitting around on the high odd spots, going to all low odd places, and you end up just flushing most of the time. So we're going to talk about playing the odds today. Today we're going to talk about the double R, this main spine and the double R down in the meat of it. There's Eliminator Skyport. This is a great trigger, one of the best on our zones, named after Hammerhead, Robert's Roost, the double R. So the sweet spot is usually right at the chaparral, this flat spiny part at the bottom of the rocky area. So let's zoom on in, let's check it on out. Alright, so when we're talking about playing the odds, one from spot to spot, going directly to where I think my best chance of a thermal or lift is going to trigger off. So, you know, on a windy place, it may be the windward side of something, and on a trigger, it's going to be the apex of where all of it comes together. So if you do the whole upside down water dripping thing, water's going to drip off that apex point. So here we are on the double R, and here's our apex, yeah? So this is the last spine. You don't want to get too much below this, but this whole zone right here, this is going to be the meat of the apex. This is where all the heat is coming up the east side, coming up the west side, coming up the south side. It's going to trigger off somewhere in this zone. So when you're coming up above it, 100 feet, 200 feet above it, 300 feet above it, you're searching, you're doing your circles right above this trigger. And usually I start directly above the trigger because often, you know, we aren't very high. We don't have to worry about the drift a whole lot when we're coming over these things. If I am a lot higher, I'm going to be riding the train. I'm going to be higher up on the double R. I'm going to be way up in the rocks. But if I'm low, 200 feet above this, not low, but if I'm in 200 feet above this, I'm going to be putting all my money right here on this apex. I'm going to sit here and be as flat as I can, as efficient as I can, flying around, waiting for something to grab part of my glider so I can figure it out. And I'm going to sit here until that cycle comes through. Just like those cycles you're waiting for on launch, you're waiting for those thermals to cycle too. It isn't constant lift going up often. It comes and goes in waves. So sometimes you got to sit there a while. And I often see like the newer pilots when they come to a zone like this and it's an obvious apex, they come right to it. And if it isn't happening right away, they go off over here and check it out, and they're losing altitude. And then they go off over here and check it out, and they're losing altitude. Before you know, you got to go. And hence you're on your way to a sled ride. So when I go searching a place, I'm putting all my money in one spot. I'm going to sit there wait for that cycle to come through. I may be staying as flat and efficient as I can, searching around the apex, but I'm not going over to these lower odd places. I'm not over here, I'm not over here, I'm not over here. I'm staying around the apex. Maybe if it's west wind day, maybe I'll go on the windward side a little bit, stick my wingtip over there, and then I'll stick it in the lee a little bit. Maybe I'll go a little deeper in the lee. Then maybe on the windward side, I'm waiting, just waiting until something bites my glider and it gives me a chance of a way to turn. I'm not coming out here in the front. You know, I'm saying don't get much below this point because you'll be in the canyon behind the tunnel tit, and your chances of getting up down on this is very low anyway. So it's better to bail out to your next excellent trigger, which is the tunnel tit. So you'll determine over time your to-go points by just experience, by seeing other people do it, by you know, wherever you may have found lift the last time. I'm also up in my odds by every time I go to a spot, I'm using the information from the previous spot. So maybe on my previous thermal, maybe I got it on the east side. Maybe if the wind's coming this way, I got my lift in the lee of it. So on the next time I go to a spot, say I'm coming right up to the double R and I just got the last thermal in the lee of the thermal factory, I'm going to search here first. And I'm going to start doing my figure eights before I start drifting over to the apex more. Just because that's where I got it last time, and often they form patterns in the day. If you're getting in the lee one side, then try it in that side. Maybe it's a windward side day, so I'm going to up my odds by going there first on the windward side and looking around and fishing around. But I'm always staying in this apex. I'm not going way over here. I'm not going way over here, because the further away from this apex you get, the lower your odds are going to be. So I want to play the odds. I want to stay high with my buddies. I want to go far today. I don't want to sled out. So I'm sticking to this thing. I'm keeping my glider flat. I'm not making steep turns. Being as efficient as I can. I have my hands up. You know, flying a best glide. and waiting for something to bite. Of course, I'm grabbing pressure if I'm feeling something, but I'm waiting for it to bite in so I can make a thermal and cruise on up and get to the higher terrain. And that's how we play the odds here in town. It's rare that things go off in the canyons because we're not very high. So often places, you know, that you think you're getting something in the canyon because you're really high, it's probably just something that's drifting off and you're getting it. More than likely it's coming from a normal trigger. But some places like Marshall, where you could fly, you know, straight out from launch for a mile and hit 10 different thermals, I mean, that just doesn't happen that often here. We're too saturated by the marine air, and our thermals are too finicky. We're going right to specific triggers. We're staying right in specific zones 90 to 95% of the time. Often on windy days, you know, you'll get mechanical turbulence, and you may get a lot more stuff in the lee, but most days it's always right on the apex. Put all your time and money into the apex. And then if you get below, like so for the double R, you don't want to get much below this front point, and it's time to go. The reason it's time to go is because, for one, low odds getting up down here, and for two, you have much better odds of going to the next trigger, which is right out in front, this tunnel tit here, this guy. So if you leave by this point, you can get right next to this high odd spot of finding lift. And you aren't going to waste that altitude by going over here or down this spine or down this spine. You're going to go sit right here and right in front of it and right on top of it until that cycle comes through, or until you're flushed down to another higher odd spot. So unless I see bushes shaking, another person climbing, bird soaring at a different spot, I'm sticking right here. I'm not searching anywhere else until I get flushed off. And that's how you play the odds, baby. See you up there. We gotta give a shout out to all the people and organizations that make free flight possible here in Santa Barbara and our surrounding areas. First off, we got Eagle Paragliding, which is eagleparagliding.com, one of the 2 paragliding schools in town. They will take you from zero to hero, baby. From the Bunny Hill to the mountains to all over the world. They got tours all over the place. They got SIV clinics going on with a boat and a lake. So hit up eagleparagliding.com. Arctic 4 is what I fly. It's the only glider I fly. I love it. I use it for everything. Niviac.com. Safest glider on the planet. Smash that bar and you're going places. Smoking those Enzos. Ha! Badass glider. I'm surfing the terrain all the time here in Santa Barbara. Never take a collapse, never a wingtip. I could launch this thing in technical conditions. I could fly it on the ridges and the training hill, hike with it. It's amazing. Get one. Fly Above All, our other paragliding school in town. You'll see them up at the VOR doing some tandems at the ridges, hanging out, supporting the local community. We got, and they are flyaboveall.com. Flyaway.hanggliding.com. Willie, awesome hang glider instructor, ripper pilot, doing his thing here in town. Tandems all over the place. Call me if you want to learn how to hang glide. We got miniplaneUSA.com. This is Chad Bastian's company. If you want to learn how to motor, take a lesson with Chad. Super fun. If you want to learn how to thermal too, watch this guy. He's at the hill every day for the last 20 years. Amazing technique. It's like an art form watching him thermal. Watch the way he moves his hands, the way he shifts his weight. You get a lesson all in itself just watching him. And then we have our Santa Barbara Soaring Association page, sbsa.info. You can see the chat box on here when people are talking about flying. The Twitters replicate on here from the 2 paragliding schools of when they're meeting and where the flying's happening. We also have a visiting pilots page. Santa Barbara Soaring Association keeps our sites flyable, our sites insured. Our wind talkers talking, so we definitely want to contribute to them. Definitely hit up a local before you come flying, or one of the paragliding schools. All the contacts are on the visitings page, and you have to be a member to fly our sites. So we have a little donate here. You can donate and do it right online and be all set for when you come fly. So welcome to paradise.